It's a difficult time right now for a lot of people. It's easy to worry about the financial markets. It's easy to worry about the viruses out there, all the panic and everything that the news wants you to worry about. And I just did a video last week on financial downturns and how to stop worrying about the financial markets. So go watch that video after this video. But it is possible to be calm and relaxed and to have a calm spirit even during the hardest times. And most importantly it is possible to be present, to be in the moment, to live in the moment. So we're going to talk about the power of being present and how to show this to your kids. Let's get started. Please don't forget to subscribe for more videos on money, minimalism, our travel journey around the world. We publish a new video every week. Wherever you are, make sure you're there. Dan Sullivan. Most people are thinking about their family while they're at work and thinking about work while they're with their family. Zig Ziglar. Does that hit home with you? Because it does with me. It resonates with me, unfortunately. Our minds wander, especially if you're a thinker. I mean, everybody thinks, but there are people who are thinkers. I fall into that category. And unfortunately, that often turns into worry, or it can. And that's probably why Paul said, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." Philippians 4:6-7. We're not called to worry. We're not called to live in the past. We're not called to be living in the future all the time. We're called to live in the present. And that's not always easy. But you won't get anywhere if you're living in the past, and you'll never see it come to fruition if you're always living in the future, if you're always worried about the next best thing. The present, technically, is all we've got. So what are you thinking about whenever you're at work? Are you thinking about the task at hand? Or are you thinking about your family? Are you thinking about the vacation you're planning? Are you thinking about the weekend? Or are you thinking about not work stuff? Are you actually working? Sometimes work is busy and we don't have an option but to think about the task at hand because we have to put all of our concentration onto whatever's going on. But then sometimes work slows down and we're still getting paid by our employer, but we stop working and stop thinking about work and we stop being where we actually are and start going somewhere else in our minds. So it's important to focus on work when you're at work. Think about what you have to get done that day. Think about how you can be a better employer. Think about how you can be a better employee. Think about how you can just improve and hone your craft to get better at your skills, to take courses or get educated, different things. Think about work whenever you're at work. Whenever you're at home, that should be whenever you're doing the vacation planning, but also that should be whenever you're thinking about home, your family, your wife or your husband, your kids, your grandkids. And this is an important concept that your kids can actually learn at a young age, if you instill it at a young age, to be where you are, to be doing what you're doing and not thinking about something else while you're doing it. So that's all about work, but also it's important to play when you play. You probably have a job that you're going to be thinking about whenever you're on vacation, during the weekends, during the evenings, whenever you're supposed to be with your family, you're going to be thinking about work. And that's what we're trying to avoid. If we think about work the whole time when we're at work doing whatever job we're doing, we shouldn't have to think about it whenever we're not at work. And the goal is to not think about it at all when we're not at work. Going back to that Zig Ziglar quote, he actually noticed in his life that he was thinking about work when he was at home and thinking about home whenever he was at work. And he changed some things around to where whenever he worked, he would be reading on the plane to get better. He would be making business calls whenever he was back on the ground. He would be doing his speeches. He was working the whole time and he worked super hard. But whenever he was at home, he didn't think about work at all. He was completely present in the moment. When he was on the clock, he was constantly working. Whenever he was at home, no work. When we're at home, we need to keep our family in the forefront of our mind. That's why I think a morning routine is really important, especially if you have a side business like I do or something else going on. You can wake up in the morning, get that stuff knocked out, and then completely forget about it during the daytime while you're spending time with your family on the weekends. But if you use every hour wisely at work, you should be able to use every hour wisely at home. If you're thinking about one while you're at the other, you might not be using all your hours wisely. How to live in the present. So whenever I hear the present and how to live in the present, how to be present, things like that, that actually makes me think of more Eastern religions, personally, kind of New Age, things like that, because I think they talk a lot more about the present, but it's actually a biblical concept. Jesus said, as recorded in the book of Matthew, "Therefore do not be anxious about tomorrow, for tomorrow will be anxious for itself. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble." It's Matthew 6:34. When Jesus taught us how to pray, he said, "Give us this day our daily bread." Matthew 6:11. He didn't mention the future. He didn't ask for tomorrow's bread. He asked for today's bread. And I think that's important to know that he's talking about living in today, getting what is sufficient for the day, not worrying so much about tomorrow, not worrying so much about later, focusing on being present. It's great to think about the past whenever you're journaling or reminiscing about it, and it's great to think about the future when you're planning, but the problem comes in when you're only thinking about the past and only thinking about the future, either or, and you're never thinking about the present. You're never thinking about where you are. Be where you are. So often for people, one of the first steps to living in the present is actually getting the things out of your head that are causing you worry in the future. David Allen talks about in his book, Getting Things Done, get all that stuff in your head out onto paper. Have some sort of system, whether it be a notepad, whether it be online app, whatever, have some sort of system where you can get all that stuff in your head out, whether it's ideas, things you want to do, things you need to do, your to-do list, all that stuff. Get it out of your head so that you can stop worrying about it. Worry about it whenever you should be worrying about it. Have a set time for that. You should be controlling that. It shouldn't be controlling you. I've talked about it before. I use Chaos Control. It's just an easy app that you can get a to-do list. You can have a calendar on there. You can kind of put everything. You can make other lists. I like Chaos Control. I have it for all my computers. It does cost money. I think it's like 30 or 40 bucks for the computer version. And the phone version's much less expensive if there's not a free version. But that's just what I do. You can use whatever you want. Just get that stuff out of your head so you can stop worrying so much about the future. And you'll need to have a system for actually going back to that stuff and turning those ideas into plans and getting that to-do list done and all of that. But the important thing is just to get it out of your head. And to settle your mind completely, meditation really does help. It really helps a lot. The Insight Timer app has plenty of Christian meditations that you can get on and use. You can meditate over a scripture. You can meditate by simply being still and listening to God. Focus on God, focus on prayer, read a few verses, focus on your breathing. Try to calm yourself down. That helps to be present. It helps for you to see the areas where you're not being present as well. So 4 quick steps to just kind of living in the present in the way that I do it. Number 1, journal your past. So write down all the things that happened that you need to get out of your mind that you keep thinking about and you don't want to forget. So journal that stuff. Number 2, capture your ideas. So we talked about the past. This is more about the future, getting all that down on paper or an app or however you choose to get it down. Number 3, plan your future. So actually come back to those ideas, have a certain time or a certain way every week that you look at that list of ideas and you come back to that and turn those into plans during a set period, not in your mind while you're supposed to be spending time with your family. And number 4, meditate daily. Daily meditation and prayer, Bible reading, those things are great, but don't forget that meditation piece. We always say prayer and Bible reading. Those things are awesome, but meditation is also really important to clear your mind and to be present. How to teach your kids the importance of living in the present. If you think your mind is running wild, try getting into your kid's mind. I can assure you, your mind is probably not going as fast as theirs. And that's a good thing. That's exactly how children's minds should be running. They should be going all over the place because they're kids, and that's what happens. And they have all these big ideas, and they have all these big things that they think about, and that's normal. But you should teach them along the way to start capturing those ideas, to actually get that stuff out of their head, the importance of living in the present, and to getting that stuff down on paper or into an app or whatever they want to do. But just getting it out of their head, and maybe some really good ideas will be born for what's going to happen in their future. It's good for them to think about that stuff, to think about their plans, to actually plan their future, to think about college or what they want to be when they grow up. Those things are great, but teach them to separate that from living in the moment. Like, we are taking time to think about what we want to be when we grow up, but now that we're back in the moment and we're not talking about that anymore, we should be thinking about where we are. It's an easy concept, but it's not easy in practice, like a lot of things. And finally, the easiest way to live in the moment is to simply practice gratitude, to be thankful. When you're constantly thankful for what you have, instead of thinking about what you had or what you don't yet have, you'll be right there in the present. Gratitude leads to contentment, which leads to a happy, fulfilled, joyful life. It's perfectly fine to be discontent with the way certain things are. Sometimes discontentment can drive us towards positive change, sometimes. But you can be content with your life overall and appreciating what you have while still being discontent in one area and striving to do better. So use that discontentment to move you toward your goal while still appreciating everything you do have and being content with your life as a whole. Please don't forget to subscribe for more videos, money, travel, minimalism. Also, please check out my book. I will put a link to that below, Intentional Children. It's all about money and mindset and instilling these ideas in kids and helping them to grow and learn. That's all for today. I will see you next week.